This will be a quick video explaining why and when to go which items on all AD carries. Let's just start right away with Ashe. Trinity is nice on her because it provides extra mobility and health, so she's way less vulnerable and it also gives great offensive stats. The only downside is that the build path isn't the best. After, you can go Kraken just for optimal DPS or Runans for extra wave clear. I'd recommend going Kraken or Runans third too, depending on what you haven't bought yet as the default build. Bloodthirster and Shield Poke can be nice versus Poke, but they both scale with levels, so it's nicer to buy them later on in the game, though it's not bad buying them third item depending on your level. Shield Poke is a better option versus burst champs / assassins. Versus heavy magic damage, as in 1 strong or 2+ magic damage dealers, more Wits End can be good. More is worse versus champions like Evelynn for example, because as it procs you're already in her ult extra damage range. In general, Wits End is nicer if you can hit a lot, as you have more attack speed, while more is nicer if you can't. More is also better versus burst mages or like AP assassins. LDR and QSS are quite self-explanatory. LDR is good if enemy has a lot of armor and or HP, and QSS is nice versus heavy CC or champions like Malzahar and Skarner. GA you generally want to buy if you're ahead and you plan to stay ahead. So if enemy has to invest a lot of their cooldowns to kill you and then you get revived after, it's very good. It's also nice versus dive champs or champs that's only purpose is to flank and one-shot you, like Talon or Ka for example. They invest all their cooldowns to try and burst you and then become useless after. I won't re-explain items that I've already covered since it's the same thought process for most AD carries. If healers can just go Gale Force first if he manages to base on 1.3k gold for BF Sword. Basing on 1.1k gold for Seal is just bad, and then you rather go for Stormrazor or Kraken instead. I'd recommend going Stormrazor versus Squishies, and if you can apply the movement speed buff well, and you can also take single auto trades rather than hit a lot, Kraken is just straight up better if you can hit a lot, which is really common versus frontline heavy comps. Collector is good versus Squishies and when you're soul-walling already. Caitlyn can go rapid fire to poke enemies safely with headshots on mid waves, and Raven build is either Essence Reaver Glass Cannon build to deal the most damage, or Trinity with a little more survivability. Ezreal is very self-explanatory. Ravenous versus BT is kind of preference, and going Frozen Heart I only recommend versus heavy physical damage or if you're already ahead. Building this while being behind is never gonna make you carry a game. Runans or Jinx is good if the game is slow and you farm a lot. It especially excels in front-to-back fights where you can hit multiple targets at the same time. This is very common if the enemy has 2 to 3+ melee champs. Kai'Sa can go either crit build or on it AP. I wouldn't recommend going Zhonya's if you're opting into Kraken Navori for example, but it's still a possibility. Try to combine crit items with other crit items, like PD third when you build the default build, and AP items with Shiv and Ginsu's. Nashor's third is almost always default in that case. Zhonya's is good versus Assassin / Engage or single target spells that you want to avoid like Karthus R or Malphite R. Banshees can have the same effect, but you should really only go it if you really need the MR and the enemy doesn't have an easy way of proccing it. You only go Rabadons if you can't really die. Kalista is self-explanatory until Randuin's. I'd recommend going this if enemy has heavy physical damage and 1 to 2 crit champs like an AD carry plus Yasuo Yon. Spirit Visage is good versus heavy AP. Same goes for Kog. He can also build Anathema Stow versus one really fat enemy, or if the enemy has a single AP source you put it on and then get armor items after. Titanic I would only build in combination with Runans for the splash damage interaction. Lucian has multiple first and second item options. In my opinion, if you plan to burst enemies in one combo, Stormrazor is the best. Otherwise, Essence Reaver for multiple short trades is nice, and Kraken is good if you can hit a lot and the enemy is kind of tanky. Same goes for Gale Force. You typically go this if you plan to burst enemies while also being safer at the same time. He has some more damage in short fights, but less burst in Gale Force. Navori excels at longer trades, where you can use multiple spell rotations. Generally, I don't like picking Lucian in a game though, where you can't burst the enemies, because there's a lot of AD carries that do way better in long fights than him. So my go-to would be Stormrazor into Gale Force in most games. MF is self-explanatory. Nyla is a melee champ, so Death Stance becomes a defensive item option versus physical damage as well. On Samira you can go Dirk into second item IE or Gale Force, which is preference in my opinion. And if you're stomping really hard, Russian Collector can be good as well. I'll make a second part of this explaining the rest of the items and post in a few days, so make sure to follow my Twitter and our YouTube to not miss out on them. Really hope you guys found this helpful and that you have a nice day. See you around.